Hi everyone. I was 32 years old, living what I thought was a successful life. I had dedicated the past decade to managing a prestigious luxury resort on Florida's Space Coast, a place where guests came to escape reality. It was more than just a business to me. It was a dream, something I had been working toward ever since I was a teenager, learning the ins and outs of hospitality. I had everything I wanted: a thriving career, a beautiful wife, and a home that we had built together. From the outside, people would say I had it all: a perfect marriage, a stable future, a loving partner. But I learned that perfection is just an illusion. Madeline, my wife of 4 years, was the kind of woman who captured attention effortlessly. She had a way of walking into a room and making everyone turn their heads, her confidence radiating like the sun. When we first met, I was enchanted by her intelligence, her ambition, her undeniable charm. She had this fire in her eyes, the kind of spark that made you believe she could conquer the world. And for years, I believed in her. I trusted her. Until I discovered that she had been living a lie. It wasn't a dramatic revelation, at least not at first. It started with something small, a mistake on her part, a careless oversight that would eventually unravel her entire deception. It started with my dog. Max, my loyal German Shepherd, was more than just a pet. He was my companion, the one who greeted me at the door every day without fail, the one who had been by my side when I worked late nights at the resort, waiting patiently for me to return home. That evening, like any other, Max ran up to me, his tail wagging, something clenched between his teeth. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a sock, a torn-up shoe, or another one of his usual discoveries from the backyard. But when I reached down and took it from him, my breath caught in my throat. It was a pair of men's boxer shorts, navy blue, decorated with golden rockets, a custom print that I recognized instantly because I had seen them before. Lucas Sterling, Madeline's boss, the CEO of the aerospace company she worked for, was known for his obsession with his brand. He had personally designed a set of boxers featuring his company's logo, handing them out as a joke at a corporate Christmas party. And now here they were. In my backyard. In my hands. A cold realization crept up my spine. What the hell were his boxers doing here? At first, I tried to rationalize it. I needed, to believe there was some kind of innocent explanation. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Madeline had accidentally brought them home from work. Maybe some office prank had gone too far, and she had taken them as a joke. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. Because deep down I already knew the truth. I just wasn't ready to face it. That night, I watched Madeline as she moved around the house, completely unaware of what I had found. She was smiling, laughing as she scrolled through her phone, humming to herself as she poured herself a glass of wine. There was no guilt in her eyes, no hesitation in her movements. She was comfortable. Too comfortable. And that's when I knew I wasn't dealing with a moment of weakness or a one-time mistake. This was something deeper. Something planned. Repeated. Hidden. I didn't confront her immediately. Because I needed proof. At the resort, we had state-of-the-art surveillance systems. High-end cameras covered every inch of the property, monitoring guest activity, ensuring the safety of our staff. I had access to some of the best security equipment available. So I used it. The next morning, I took the day off work and called in a favor from one of my most trusted IT specialists. I need hidden cameras installed in my house. Discreet. Completely undetectable. His eyebrows lifted, but he didn't ask questions. By the time the afternoon rolled around, my house had been transformed into a surveillance hub. Cameras in the living room, the bedroom, even the bathroom. Every angle covered. Every possibility anticipated. All I had to do now was wait. The next day, while sitting in my office at the resort, I checked the live feed from my phone. What I saw made my blood boil. Madeline walked into our bedroom. Casual as ever. She wasn't anxious or nervous. She was comfortable, at ease. Then, Lucas arrived. 52-year-old Lucas Sterling. A man with graying hair, a soft belly, and the arrogance of a man who had never been told no. He stepped into my house like he owned it, removing his suit jacket, rolling up his sleeves. Madeline smiled at him. She touched him. And then she kissed him. I sat there, watching as my wife undressed for another man. As she whispered sweet nothings in his ear. As she wrapped herself around him like she had done to me countless times before. My hands clenched into fists. My vision blurred with rage. But I didn't stop watching. Because I needed every detail. I needed to know how deep this went. How many times this had happened. How long she had been lying to me. For the next 2 weeks, I collected evidence. I watched their routine unfold like clockwork. Every Monday and Thursday, Lucas would arrive, take his time defiling my wife, and then leave without a care in the world. Madeline would clean up, fix the bed, and go about her day like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just destroyed our marriage. Like I didn't exist. I could have confronted her that night. I could have walked into our bedroom, thrown the footage in her face, demanded an explanation. But that would have been too easy. And I wasn't interested in easy. I wanted destruction. I wanted pain. I wanted revenge. And I was going to make sure that when I was done with them, they would never forget my name. They had played their game. Now it was my turn. I wasn't going to rush this. No, rushing would ruin the fun. What Madeline and Lucas had done to me wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't something they regretted. They reveled in their betrayal, indulging in it week after week, believing themselves untouchable. I wanted them to suffer. I wanted them to feel the weight of their sins, to realize too late that they had destroyed their own lives. They had taken everything from me. My love, trust, my dignity. And now, I was going to return the favor. I spent days crafting the perfect plan. One that would ensure neither of them ever recovered. Lucas had everything to lose. His career. His wealth. His reputation. A powerful, wealthy CEO like him. His life depended on the illusion that he was a respectable family man. A loving husband. A brilliant businessman. If the truth came out, his world would crumble. And Madeline, she thought she was untouchable. That she had secured her future by clinging to him. She thought she was upgrading. But what she didn't realize was that she was about to lose everything she had ever taken for granted. I wasn't just going to expose them. That would be too merciful. I was going to ruin them in ways they couldn't even imagine. Part 8. Setting the trap. The first step was making them sweat. That Thursday, their usual cheating day, I watched from the security feed as Lucas pulled into my driveway like he owned the place. He got out of his car, fixing his tie, running a hand through his graying hair, looking like he had not a single care in the world. He had no idea what was waiting for him. I let them get comfortable, allowed them to fall into their disgusting routine. Then, at the exact worst possible moment, I made my move. I slammed the bedroom door open, the force of it crashing against the wall. Why don't you two stop what you're doing and join me in the living room? My voice was calm, eerily so. Madeline screamed, grabbing the sheets to cover herself. Lucas froze, his pale, sagging body on full display before he scrambled to grab his clothes. Justin, Madeline gasped, her face turning white as she clutched the sheets tighter. Lucas opened his mouth, probably to lie, but I was in the mood. You have 5 minutes. Get dressed. I turned and walked out, leaving them scrambling. The living room was dimly lit, the atmosphere thick with tension. I took a seat, watching the clock, waiting for them to emerge. They took their time, whispering frantically, trying to figure out what to say, how to spin this, how to save themselves, but they didn't know that there was no saving themselves. When they finally shuffled into the room, they looked like guilty criminals awaiting sentencing. Lucas avoided my gaze, his lips pressed into a thin line, while Madeline fidgeted, her hands trembling. I said nothing. I just reached for the TV remote, pressed a button, and watched as the screen lit up, and there it was. Every disgusting moment, every whisper, every moan, every sickening display of their betrayal, all captured in perfect high-definition clarity. Madeline let out a choked sob, covering her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. Lucas, on the other hand, went completely silent, his face turning a deep shade of red. Turn off, Justin, please. Madeline begged, shaking her head frantically. I paused the video, looked them both in the eyes. No, my voice was cold, unforgiving. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, watching them squirm. Let's get straight to the point. I turned my gaze to Lucas. I want $1 million. He let out a bitter laugh. You're insane. I smiled. Am I? Because if this video gets out, you won't just lose your marriage. You'll lose your company, your career, your money. Your wife will take everything. And when she's done, the scandal will ensure you never do business again. Lucas's jaw clenched. He knew I was right. You have 2 days. I slid a piece of paper across the table with bank transfer instructions. You can't do this, Madeline cried, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, my expression icy. You did this. Lucas was silent for a long time. Then he nodded, his voice flat. Fine. I'll pay. I smirked. Smart man. The money was just the first step. Why I'd planned next would be so much worse. I'd spent weeks gathering evidence. But now, it was time to turn the screws. I leaked anonymous tips to reporters. Whispers of corruption, financial fraud, shady dealings within Lucas's aerospace firm. I sent carefully crafted letters to his board members, hinting that he had been involved in multiple affairs with employees, using company resources for personal pleasure. And then, when the time was right, I sent the final blow, a copy of the video to his wife. The aftermath was glorious. Lucas's wife filed for divorce immediately, taking half his fortune and full control of the company. The board forced him out, citing morality clauses and financial misconduct. Within a month, Lucas was jobless, divorced, and ruined. He tried to contact me, tried to negotiate, but I ignored him. He had lost. Madeline? Oh, she suffered too. When the dust settled, she was left with nothing. Lucas had discarded her like trash, and without his financial support, she found herself jobless and alone. She tried begging me to take her back, showing up at my new hotel, a beautiful beachfront paradise I had purchased with Lucas's money. But when she stood before me, desperate and broken, I simply smiled. Check with the front desk. They'll book you a room at another hotel. You're not welcome here. And with that, I walked away, leaving her to rot in the mess she had made. For a man who once stood at the pinnacle of success, Lucas Sterling had never looked more pathetic. After his wife divorced him, after he lost his company, his fortune, and his standing in society, he tried everything to salvage what little he had left. He sold his luxury cars, his private jet, his vacation home in the Bahamas, all in an effort to settle debts and legal fees. But it wasn't enough. Without his company, without the protection of his power and wealth, his dark secrets started coming to light. The anonymous tips I sent to the press about his company's financial fraud led to an official federal investigation. His lawyers scrambled to suppress the reports, but it was too late. One by one, his business associates cut ties with him. Investors withdrew their money. And then came the final blow. Madeline turned against him. I expected her to crawl back to me after Lucas discarded her, but I never anticipated what she would do next. Desperate and clinging to any chance of survival, she went to the authorities. She told them everything. How Lucas had used company funds to finance their affair. How he paid for lavish trips, expensive gifts, even hired private suites under the company's name. She handed over emails, receipts, and bank statements. Every last piece of incriminating evidence. And in return, the government cut her a deal. Immunity. The morning of Lucas's arrest was broadcasted live on national television. He was dragged out of his penthouse in handcuffs, his face pale, his eyes hollow, his once pristine reputation shattered beyond repair. His wife watched from the sidelines, her arms crossed, her expression blank, as the father of her children was taken away. There were no pleas for his innocence, no last-minute deals, no loyal friends willing to stand by him. Lucas Sterling had been destroyed completely. Madeline thought she had escaped. She believed that by selling Lucas out, she could rebuild her life, start over with a clean slate. But life isn't that forgiving. With no career, no financial stability, and no real skills, she found herself struggling to survive. She moved into a dingy apartment, working a low-paying secretarial job at an insurance firm, a far cry from the life of luxury she once knew. She reached out to me, begging for a second chance, telling me she had never stopped loving me, that she had made a mistake, that she was willing to do anything to fix things. I let her talk. I let her pour out every last excuse, every last plea for mercy, And when she was done, I simply smiled. "You're not even worth hating anymore." Then I walked away. With Lucas's money, I purchased my dream hotel, a stunning beachfront property, secluded and peaceful, catering to an exclusive clientele. I rebuilt myself from the ground up, creating a life of success, wealth, and control, one that no one could ever take from me again. I surrounded myself with beautiful women, indulged in the finer things in life, and made sure that Madeline and Lucas's betrayal never defined me. Because the best revenge, it wasn't destroying them, it was making sure that I thrive while they suffered. Months later, I receive an anonymous message. Lucas had taken his own life in prison, and Madeline, she vanished, her whereabouts unknown. Some say she moved to another city, trying to escape the shame. Others say she became a shadow of herself, wasting away in some cheap apartment, living off scraps of what she used to be. But me? I didn't waste another second thinking about either of them. Because in the end, revenge isn't about ruining others. It's about building yourself into something greater, something untouchable. And I had done exactly that. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.